Part 2. Yes. Yes, because we have only done 3 years of your service at this point in time.
Yeah. So anyway,
Yes.
we learned a lot of things as a second lieutenant, because we spent a year in the Kheti Badi of Amritsar, trying to save our tanks from getting destroyed under the water,
Okay.
flooding canals and things like that.
Uh,
We got back and the regiment moved to J&K, to the Jammu area of Kaluchak, which is an area, I don't know if you know the geography, there's a road from Pathankot to Jammu.
oh,
It
yes,
goes
I'm
along the
aware of that.
Pakistan border.
Yeah.
About halfway down the line is a place called Samba. And about halfway between Samba and Jammu itself is a military setup called Kaluchak.
Okay.
And a lot of units were positioned there, because J&K was the bone of contention between the Pakistanis and us.
Right.
And so therefore the military had to be there. And I rejoined the regiment there. I was a gunnery officer. We were in tentage, really. But nevertheless, we did a lot of training. Both were wide open spaces there. And a large number of distributaries come down. We're taken from the Jhelum River, from the Tavi River. The Tavi River flows through Jammu. And the way distributaries come for irrigation of the fields, etc., these go right up to the border. So one got an idea about the international border and how it is to be defended. There were the infantry posts and all that sort of thing there. But the army is already backing up at the back, so that in case there's an ingress by the enemy, then we can do something about it. One has to study the maps. Geography is very important. Every hill and nook and cranny and every valley and every nala is important for fighting, either for offense or for defense. One has to work out defenses accordingly. So that was a very good experience. And I was the gunnery officer of the regiment. I learned a lot. And then our quartermaster, who was from the ranks, he was a chap called, he had been a senior JSO of one of the cavalry regiments, 18 Cavalry.
Okay.
And he got an SL commission. That means some JSOs who retire at a good level, they are given a officer's rank. So he was the captain's rank.
Okay.
And he was our quartermaster. He was very good indeed. Thakur Singh was his name. And he had to go away on posting. I mean, he finished his tenure, so he was retiring. So my commanding officer, who was at this time Lieutenant Colonel K.K. Singh, he asked me to take over as quartermaster. I didn't like that. But he said that as a good officer who knows how to fight the battle, you have to know how the administration is done.
Okay.
I didn't quite see the point then, and I was a little reluctant, but nonetheless, those were the orders, so I had to take over as quartermaster. You learn as a quartermaster how rations are provided, even in the field during battle, how ammunition is provided, how fuel is provided. And unless you learn this, you cannot be a good military commander. Because I must explain to you, even Napoleon Bonaparte, the famous emperor of France, made a statement that the army marches on its stomach.
Yes.
Which means that when the army is advancing, you have to have the supplies coming forward. Right? And this is an area which generally officers avoid studying. But it is a vital study for all to know how the administration of an army is done, because until the ammunition and the supplies, that's also supplies of manpower for those who get killed in battle or get wounded. This is a system, when somebody gets injured or something, he's taken away from the battlefield and fresh recruits are sent forward. Same with if there's a tank which is disabled, that is taken back and a fresh tank has to be sent forward. Same with ammunition. As you're spending your ammunition trucks have to come forward to supply ammunition at night. And as you move, your fuel gets finished, so you have to have fuel trucks coming up. It's a very vital area of how to run a battle. Because even a tank or a gun is useless if there is no ammunition or if there's no fuel in the tank. It becomes a sitting duck. See? So this quartermaster's job taught me a lot. And after that, the regiment moved to Benares from Kaluchak. I was made the adjutant. The adjutant is the right-hand man of the commanding officer. Commanding officers had changed. And as an adjutant, you're supposed to make sure that the discipline of the unit and functioning of everything is done correctly. Plus, you're the first staff officer, commanding officer, all the letter writing and answers to the higher authorities, etc., and instructions to the subordinate squadrons, as they are called, in an infantry battalion would be companies, has to be done by this guy. So by experiencing these jobs as a lieutenant or as a young captain, one gains experience. Then we were posted from Benares to Kanpur. Now, Kanpur was a tank regiment called 2nd Lancers, 2nd Royal Lancers. And one of my friends from the Kashmir days, when we were refugees, was Sethi. He's known as Billu Sethi. He's the golf champion of India.
Okay.
He's a big man, 6'4". He's a damn good golfer, right? So in the officers' mess, he had made a golfing green and practiced people on chip shots and putting and things like that. We saw him doing that, and later he became an All India champion. If you come to the Delhi Golf Club, I mean, the first photo you see is Billu Sethi. He became president of the Delhi Golf Club, right? And captain of the Delhi Golf Club after his retirement. So Billu Sethi is famous. There are a number of cups in his name. So I got to know him in Kashmir because his family, the Sethis, were running the transport system between Jammu and Srinagar. Those days of 1947, along a very dirt road which went through the Banihal Pass. It's now a very good road. So these are friends who joined. He was about 6 months junior to me. He also joined the Armored Corps. He was in 2nd Lancers. And in fact, he became an instructor in gunnery also. He was working under me. So I got to know him very well. And so he was there, plus other friends of the 2nd Lancers. And I came as the advance party commander. And Kanpur was the first high society town that we met. It was a very good, some months we spent there, a year maybe. But while I was there, the Nagaland operations had started. See, Nagaland, if you recollect, the chap called A.Z. Fizo, he's a Naga hostile. There are a number of tribes in Nagaland. So his tribe was the Angami tribe of Nagas. They're very good warriors who are around about Kohima, which is the capital of Nagaland. And so he had created a revolt in 1956 against the Indian government because they wanted to be a free society of a separate state. Right. So we call it an insurgency, where a part of the land that the British have handed over to us wants to separate because they want to have a separate state. So the Indian army was sent there, and the Nagas are very good fighters. They helped the British Indian army during World War II, the Nagas and the Mizos. Mizos are for the south. And these people fighting through those very heavy jungles and very heavy, during the border between Burma and India, or Myanmar and India, full of thick bamboo jungles. Each bamboo is about that thick, about a foot thick, and they go up to 50, 60 feet. And they're very close clumps. You go through this, you need a Naga da, sort of a short sword, which you cut your way through. Right. But there are secret parts which the insurgents knew and which we didn't. So they could follow the secret path to ambush the Indian army or whoever was coming there. So one of our battalions, 3rd Gadwal Rifles, if I recollect, had gone towards a village called Khunoma, which was the village of A.Z. Fizo. They tried to advance from there, and they were ambushed by the Nagas, and they lost 9 or 10 men in a matter of 2 minutes. And so they got a bad setback, and they not feeling very happy to advance further without some close support. So the army headquarters decided that a troop of armored cars, now an armored car is like a tank, but it's on wheels. So it has 4 wheels, and we had 2 armored cars in that time. There was a Humber armored car and a Daimler armored car. Now the Humber armored car, all American, it had a turret with 2 men in it and had 1 driver. And in the turret, you had a similar gun to what we had in our Stuart tank, a 37 millimeter tank gun. And it was shoulder controlled, The gunner had to elevate and
Oh.
instead of cogwheels that you turn around, you have to put your shoulder up and down to get the gun pointing in the right direction. So since I was a gunnery expert, uh, my regiment had been ordered that you please raise armored car troop,
Okay.
comprising 5 armored cars and 2 troops of armored corps infantry. It's called. They're on weapon carriers. Weapon carrier is larger, about double the size or 3 times the size of a normal Jeep.
Okay.
It is a Dodge weapon carrier, American equipment. 6-cylinder engine, very powerful vehicle. And you could carry about 8 chaps at the back with machine guns and all that, and driver, etc., with the machine gun on top, which was part of the light regiment's organization at that time. So I raised this troop comprising 5 armored cars and 2 troops, that is 8 weapon carriers carrying what is known as sort of infantry, but armored corps people. And my regiment was all South Indian, by the way.
Okay.
It's very interesting of South Indians.
Yeah.
Actually, this regiment, 16 Light Cavalry, was raised in South India in 1776 or thereabout. Nawab of Rajkot's own cavalry, and was taken over by the East India Company, etc. I won't go into the history, but there were South Indian troops there. Later, when the World War II was going on, they had converted to North Indian troops around about 1920.
Okay.
Jats and Kem Khanis are Muslim Rajasthanis and Rajputs. So regiment was that. So when General Chaudhary commanded this regiment in World War II, 16 Cavalry, it was North Indian classes. But after World War II was over, the government decided that we have to have at least 1 regiment of the tanks with South Indian classes.
And
You know,
why?
there's a Madras regiment, it's very good.
Why?
So this,
What would difference it will make if it is South Indian or North Indian? I mean, how would that?
sorry,
How would North Indian or South Indian make difference in this situation?
I'm not hearing you very well.
How would North Indian or South Indian make a difference in this situation?
No, I think South Indians are more educated and perhaps more civilized than North Indians.
Okay.
So they're more difficult to command.
Okay. All right. Okay.
You know, they're more like you. In other words, the difference between an officer and the Jawan is not very much. He's also educated.
Right.
Now that's happening all over the army now. In those days, we could take an 8th class as a Jawan into the army.
Okay.
Now we are taking a graduate. But in my days, when I was a 2nd lieutenant and joined 16 Cavalry, the Jawans were also 10th and 12th class, and so were the officers.
Okay. Okay.
So they are more sophisticated that way. They require a better command capability because you have to command by example
Right.
rather than by hukum.
Right.
That is not so much the Sikhs or the Jats
Right.
or the Ahis, because North Indian classes are not that well educated, and they accept an officer straight away as the boss.
Okay.
South Indian chap has to be convinced that you're capable of being a boss before he accepts you as a boss. So you have to learn a lot. I mean, I give you an example. When you're commanding cadets in the academy, they're the same equal. It's more difficult to command equals than to command those who are subordinate.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
So South Indian classes are education-wise and civilization-wise really quite equal. So it is more difficult to command. Matters are changing now. All our Jawans are becoming very well educated now. Chair, whatever that is. We took the South Indians. I had about 105 men with the JCO, one of my favorite JCOs who taught me as a 2nd lieutenant. He was my JCO in charge. And we went off to Nagaland. I must tell you a few things. I mean, probably this will be next time. How does one get from Kanpur to Nagaland?
Okay.
In those days, I'm talking of 1956, you had to go to North Bengal in a broad gauge train, then change from broad gauge to a meter gauge train, then go to Guwahati, real Guwahati area of Assam, and the Brahmaputra had no bridge. So the train was broken up into bits and put onto barges.
Oh, yeah.
Now, let me tell you the Brahmaputra, in case you haven't seen it.
I have.
It's
I
the
have.
only.
It's mighty.
So you
and
have.
Raging, absolutely. Yeah.
So the Brahmaputra is the only male river of India. It's Brahmaputra. All the other are female names. Ganga, Jamuna,
Right. It didn't occur to me.
Narmada, Krishna, because they are delicate. Brahmaputra is a mighty river. You can't see one end from the other.
Yes.
It's like a
Yes.
sea.
Yes.
And in the monsoon, when it floods, I mean, it's like a double sea. Even an Air Force helicopter pilot was not like to fly over it because only Navy pilots are used to flying over the sea.
Oh.
So to cross the Brahmaputra, there was no bridge. So at Guwahati, the train was broken up into so many little bits, shunted one by one onto the barge, and then the barge would take off from one end to the other end. And if the flow of the water is such, he starts upstream, and by the time he reaches the other end, he's maybe a kilometer or so downstream, where there are again railway lines on there, where the train is reconstituted on the southern bank. Then you go in that meter gauge train to a place called Dimapur, which
Yes.
is the base station of Nagare.
Right.
And then you go up a road and probably get ambushed on the way by the terrorists, reach Kohima. Anyway, we went through that adventure. And the interesting thing here is that you learned a lot about the tribals. I got fascinated with the tribals. They're a marvelous set of people. For instance, you take the Angami tribe. In the girls of the Angami tribe are fully authorized to select any man they like. There's no caste system there.
Okay.
You can select any man as a partner. Since the men are all hard up for getting a good partner amongst the women, if a woman says yes, he's the guy, then everybody jumps forward and says yes. They always say yes. So in the village, the girls are kept in a separate dormitory called a morong, right? And the boys are in a separate dormitory called the boys' morong. So there's a elderly family looking after the girls' dormitory and a separate dormitory, and the elderly person looking after the boys' dormitory. And they are both at the opposite ends of the village to keep the boys away from the girls. You see? But what happens is that the boy and the girl meet during the harvesting season and all that in the fields because they're all working. And maybe you pass a couple of winks this way or that way. And the girl may say, all right, third bed from the right. So this chap at night goes to the girls' dormitory and, can see them. The dormitory is a long bhasha sort of thing made with thatched roof. Okay. And maybe there are about 20, 25 girls inside, all in sort of bamboo cots, laid out on both sides. If she says third one on the right, this step, they're all, 4 or 5 of them are sitting outside with their naga shawl, hiding their face like this. And they go one by one, go inside and come out. And then the next man goes inside and comes out. That carries on all night. The boys' dormitory are the warriors. That means if the village is attacked, right, they're the first line of defense because they're readily available. They've been taught how to fight, right, and they fight. Right. And similarly, you have to attack a nearby village and catch that head and bring it on a plate. They're headhunters, you see. So many of them wear skulls around them. In those days, I'm talking of 1956. It's not so there now. Now they're very civilized like us. But all those customs have disappeared. They're lovely customs. So the elderly family, which is looking after the girls' dormitory, are sitting in their room quietly. They know what's going on, but they don't intervene. The discipline of the boys, they go one at a time. And it's absolutely dark at night. So if the girl has said third bed on the right, he feels 1, 2, 3, and he cohabits with that girl. And if he misses out, whoever is there is quite happy to receive his attention. So that's it. Now, if the girls get pregnant, they tell their parents he's the guy, and then he jumps forward at once to marry the girl. Second thing is the army girls, shaven head in those days. The head is shaved. The sign of an unmarried girl is that the head is shaved. So once she gets married, you see these, bob cut hairdos all over Kohima. Because within a year, the hair grows up again. It's Audrey Hepburn style, very nice style. And there's in my time, there was a barber shop in Kohima, run by a Sardarji, if you please. And everybody used to go.
Sardarji, that's a joke.
No, Sardarjis are a prolific race. They're very good traders and very good shopkeepers. So they're all over the place. So I'm talking of Kohima in 1956.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it's
went off.
one thing to have a shop and another thing to have a barber shop by a Sardar. I mean, that's, I
No,
think.
two things: photographer shop and barber shop.
Oh,
So everybody amongst them, these are hostiles, also wants to take a photograph with his girlfriend.
uh,
Once I went into the photography shop to say, I want to see the photograph of so and so and so and so, because I knew the hostile's name.
uh,
He said, sorry, sir, I am not divulging any information. No photo for you. See? So, yeah, they keep the secrets of the people concerned. With the result, both the girls and the boys go there, get their photographs taken, and at the barber shop, they get their hairdos done, very fashionable, and that's it. So I had an interesting experience because, as I told you, this battalion got stuck with a few casualties. It has gone beyond the village of Konoma. Konoma was about maybe an hour and a half run from Kohima on a dirt track road, which I took two of my armored cars and I went myself. And I went there, and then there's a wooden bridge next to Konoma village. Just below the villages are all on top of a height. So when my armored car was crossing this, it broke the bridge because it's a heavy vehicle. It must be about 7 or 8 tons, you see. So these are ordinary wooden plank bridges for walking across, and maybe a jeep could go across. So it broke. So we sent on the radio, we asked for an engineer company to come and build the bridge under us because the armored car wheel had gone down. So the plank below it had broken. So meanwhile, all the Nagas were having a good bath in the stream. So they were very interested in these vehicles. They came up there, and one of the interpreters said to me that, Captain, we'll help you build the bridge. So we started putting stones underneath from the bottom of the river to the top to the bridge to try and get some load onto the armored car could pick up. Meanwhile, they kept looking up and down on the armored car, peeping through the gun and all that to say, what is this animal? So that's all right. They're very friendly people, very tough, thick calf muscles, and very physically, good and very humorous, laughing away. So then I said, what is this village? Somebody told me this is Konoma village. I said, I knew that Konoma village is by aged Trezo, the leader of the insurgency. So I said, I want to go and call on his family. Is his family here? They said, yes, his family is here. He's run away to England. So I walked up the hill and I went and called on Konoma, this aged Trezo's wife. And he had a son and he had a daughter, two daughters there. So I went in there, made friends with them, and chatted with them for about half an hour while the engineers were building that bridge. And I had a good chat. And they make the rice wine and the rice beer.
right.
It's white in color. The beer is frothy on top, and the wine has got sparkles inside, made out of rice. So they said, you're a very small wee man. You drink this stuff, it'll make you huge and tough. I said, all right. So I drank the rice beer. And then he said, you're in Konoma and you're near the road. I said, yes. He said, so we'll send you 2 more bottles shortly. So once I finished that particular operation, I went back to Kohima. My unit was just next to the road. So chap came to me and said, oh, there's a Naga chap wanting to see you, and he's got a bag with 2 bottles inside, beer bottles, full of this white stuff. He says, I brought rice beer for the captain. So then I got him into my tent and he gave me the beer today. He said, now I've given you 2 bottles of beer. Now you give me 2 bottles of rum. So I had to hand over 2 bottles of rum to him. That's black gold. It works like magic in the hills because they don't have any hard liquor. And rum is a normal ration for troops. So we did have bottles of rum. I give 2 bottles of rum. They were very happy. Come again and again. So give you more rice beer, you give us more rum. So you made friends with these people, very happy people. I had written a diary with photographs and of my camera and all the incidents of the Naga tribes, especially the Angami. Further north from Kohima, there were the Sima tribes, so they're very good fighters. And they are the leaders, and a lot of insurgents were led by Simas. The Simas are another tribe. Further north, at a place called Mukokchang, there was Ao tribe, AO, Ao. Very beautiful people, very good looking men and very good looking women. Many army officers got married to some of those women who are in India and enjoying their life as military officers' wife because their husbands went up in life and so did they. So that, kept little social relations well. And how do military officers treat the people that they're supposed to control? If you are of a generous nature and you like the people, you visit their homes and they visit you, there's a social relationship. Unfortunately, we're not allowed to bring girlfriends and wives there. We're not allowed. But that would have helped, if I thought, in creating a good relationship between the tribals and the. Because once your woman is there and their woman is there, then you're considered a safe person because your woman is there. You don't have to chase their women. So, but nevertheless, our army being what it is, despite all of us putting a plea to say that families must be allowed here for Johns and officers, uh, they didn't allow at that time, and that is to our detriment. So that's a very interesting time in Nagaland. Now, the next thing that happened here is really the incidents which led me to meet my future wife. Now, my sister, who was married to the gunnery officer, artillery officer, she went to Dehradun because my parents were there in Dehradun. Since my other sister, who's the youngest, out of the two, the younger out of the two, her husband was posted to Indochina because the Neutral Nations Commission had come to Indochina after the war, the Vietnam War and all that sort of thing. So he was posted there. He was an instructor in the Indian Military Academy. He's a signals officer. So his wife, my sister, had a house near Doon School.
Okay.
And she was alone. So my parents went and stayed with her. My sister, her husband was posted to some field area. So she came there and stayed with them also. And while they were in Dehradun, my sister wrote to me that is a very interesting lady over here who was in IT college, Isabella Thoburn College. And she must have been about 17 years old. And she had come on holiday because her aunt was living in Dehradun. Now, her aunt was a person called Priya Bali. She had been principal of Lady Harding Medical College in Delhi. My father knew her very well because when my father was head of the Army Medical Corps, he used to inspect all these medical institutions and give a report to the then health minister of the Jawaharlal Nehru government called Rajkumari Amrit Kaur.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So she had placed father in charge because a lot of corruption after the British left. There was a lot of corruption in some of these civil hospitals where surgeons, etc., would charge extra money from people who came for treatment. And so father was told to examine these hospitals and check out their functioning.
Right.
And when he went to Lady Harding, he was very impressed with the way Lady Harding was being run by Priya Bali. And my sister became a doctor. She had done her 5 years MBBS under Priya Bali in 1949-50. So she also knew them very well. Now, Priya Bali was a bachelor woman, very fine lady. And these girls were her younger sister's children. So there were three of them, three sisters, belonging to a gentleman called Dr. Barkat Ram of Jammu. He had been the chief surgeon and also the chief executive of the King George's Hospital in Lucknow. He had reached a very high level there. But he left there after his completion of tenure and he retired and he went to Jammu and opened a medical and surgical clinic. His wife was a gynecologist, studied in England, both of them. So these two had three daughters. And so these three girls used to come to Dehradun to be with their aunt, to enjoy the nice climate of Dehradun. And my father went and looked them up because he knew Priya Bali very well. And he found this lady. Her name is Farooq Barkatran. And she said, my father said, would you like to see a military parade? She said, yes. So he took her to the passing out parade in the Indian Military Academy, and she was very impressed. And they were very impressed with a nice looking young lady watching the parade with the old general. I didn't know all this. I was in Nagaland. So my sister wrote to me. She said, you have been, you're now 28 years old. You're getting on to 27, 28, and you haven't decided on a life partner. So why don't you get on with it? But I had met 7 or 8 young ladies with you. In those days, your family used to throw these ladies at you. But I had some views about this right since Sherwood College, because we were very close to the intermediate classes of All Saints College, who was our sister school. Met a lot of ladies then. I didn't believe in dalliance. I said that if you like a person, she must be up to your standard. Then you go ahead and be man enough to marry her and have many children. That's what I thought was the answer. Not just fool around. So with the result, I used to keep a little aloof from the ladies. And yes, I was introduced to a large number of ladies. My mother once asked me, said, are you all right? I mean, you don't like ladies, or what's the matter? These fine ladies come and meet you and you don't show much interest. I said, no, I've got a standard and I must see if I can achieve that. Otherwise, I'll remain a bachelor. So my sister sent me a letter which takes a few weeks to reach. There's this very young, nice lady here, and I think you should come and meet her. Yes. Somehow, I don't know if you believe in fate. You get a yearning. You say, all right, I must go and meet her. So I sent a telegram to my commanding officer in Kanpur to say that, look, I haven't had my leave. It's already December. So could you give me a month's leave? And he wrote back, sorry, I've got no officer to replace you in the Nagaland, which is somewhat got through. I've only got my adjutant and I can't talk to them. So, sorry, no leave this year. You ask me next year. Then I had a friend in the divisional headquarters there, known as General Officer Commanding Assam in those days. And he was a good friend. I used to play chess with him. So he saw a long face. He said, what's the matter? I said, she was not giving me leave. So he said, why do you want to go and leave? I said, I've been told there's a nice lady and I want to go meet her. So he drafted a signal. She sent on my behalf from the division headquarters to my commanding officer to say that this young man, I mean, he must be given the chances in life of meeting a young lady who is appropriate, and please give him some leave. So the CO's heart melted, I suppose. He was more a fatherly type, the commanding officer, Sardarji. He said, all right. So he sent his adjutant to replace me. Took me 4 days to get the replacement. Now then my sister had sent me a message that that lady is leaving in 2 days' time. So either you meet her or you missed it. So I had to get from Nagaland to Dehradun in 2 days. Now, how is that to be done? Because as I described the communications in those days, there were no, if you went in a train, it took you 7 days to reach anywhere. To reach Calcutta took you 5 days. Then another train journey to reach Delhi, then another train journey to go to Dehradun, here also. So somebody told me that the Air Force is making a new airfield at a place called Jorhat. Now, Jorhat is further up the Brahmaputra, further northeast from Dimapur, which enters Nagaland. And Jorhat is a biggish town where the tea garden people of Assam generally meet for holidays and cricket and golf and things like that. Most of these tea garden chaps used to be British in the old days, and now Indians took over their tea gardens all over Assam. And in Darjeeling and in Sikkim and all these places, they have little aeroplanes. They fly to Jorhat, land there in some dirt strip, and then they sit there enjoying parties for a week or so, playing cricket and playing golf and all that. Then they go back. So they said that there's a small landing strip there, which the Air Force is converting into a full airfield, Jorhat airfield. So maybe they might have a plane which can take you very fast to Calcutta. So I got into my, in those days, because there were a lot of ambushes, you had to carry 2 of these weapon carriers, Dodge weapon carriers, with about 6 men in each with machine guns and all that, and drive like hell down the road. Came to Dimapur, then found the way along the east bank of the Brahmaputra to go up to Jorhat. Took me, I think, about 4 hours. And I landed up in Jorhat, and there was this huge officers' mess looking building. I walked in there, it looked like an officer's mess to me. And there were these chaps at the bar, elbow bending with drinking beer at about 12 o'clock in the afternoon. So I said, is this the Air Force mess? They said, no, this is the planters' mess. So I said, I'm looking for an airfield which Air Force is supposed to be building here. So one of them said, all right, Captain, you're all armed to the teeth. You come and have a beer with us. And then this chap said, I'll guide you. I said, okay. So I had a beer with them. And then the chap drove in his car and I followed with my 2 weapon carriers. And he took us to the dirt field. All that it was there was a little tent with a very bulldog expression squadron leader sitting there. His name was Datti Gara. He later retired as an air marshal. So Datti Gara with a bulldog face was sitting in a little tent with a table. It's about 1 o'clock. And that planter told him, Datti, here's a Captain Chappie from Kohima. He wants to meet a girl very urgently in Dehradun, looking for a flight to Calcutta. So Datti Gara looked at me and he said, have you had your lunch? I said, no. So he's eating some sandwiches. He passed on 2 sandwiches to me with, cheese and chicken inside. So I very gladly ate up those. And he had an old telephone and he rang the phone like this. He said, वो जरा सामान डाल दो, fuel भर दो aircraft में. I looked outside. I saw there was one dilapidated old Dakota. Now Dakota is a early World War II aircraft.
Yes. I've seen it in the movies.
The Dakota was lying there, dilapidated. I mean, I really thought that a doors and things were about to fall off. But people were refueling it. So Datti said, look, it's a very difficult thing. There's a whole of, this is now 1956. So it was East Pakistan, where Bangladesh is now, that was East Pakistan, right? He says, I'll take you to Calcutta. I've got some stuff to take to Calcutta. And it's about the size of 3 feet by 4 feet bundle that you put inside the aircraft, whatever it was. But I have to go to Bagdogra first. I have to go to, that is Bagdogra near the Sikkim, not Sikkim, It's an airfield there near Bhutan border. I have to refuel the Dakota there. Then I have to take the flight on the other side of the boundary between Pakistan and us to reach Calcutta. It's going to take me 7 hours. Time now is 12. I can't take off before 1 o'clock. So I'll reach to Calcutta 8 o'clock in the evening. So I said, Datti sir, all right, if that's my luck, no other way, because the bird will fly. But tomorrow or day after, so to reach Dehradun is not going to be easy, because there's only one flight from Calcutta, which went at 5 o'clock in the evening to Delhi. So I would have to wait the next day till 5 to get a flight. Otherwise, the train takes a night and a bit of a day in any case. All right, I said, let's see how this goes. So anyway, at 1 o'clock, he told us to get in. There were no seats. We sat on the floor of the Dakota, and there was some, beds which you put around yourself to keep yourself, the seatbelt sort of thing. And the Tigara walked in and took off. He started flying. So that's all right. We were waiting. So it was a 2 hours flight to Bagdogra, which is near Sikkim, where he was going to refuel. So after about 2 hours, I looked out the window and I found that we are landing at Dum Dum Airport of Calcutta. So this is damn good. We landed. After taking us 2 hours. So that means it took about 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We were landing at Dum Dum. We landed. And as per procedure, the captain gets off the aircraft first. The ladder was put down. The captain went down. Then we all filed out. And I said, Datti, sir, you landed in Dum Dum. He said, look here, we have flown to Bagdogra. We have refueled. It's taken us 7 bloody hours to land here. Have you got it? I said, aye, aye, sir. Time was 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Then he walked with me to the airport, and there was a nice, pretty girl sitting on the Air India counter. Air India was the only aircraft flying. She says, Captain Sharma, put him on board this 5 o'clock flight. She said, sir, the 5 o'clock flight is all booked. He said, come on, so he knew her name. Put him on. And he took me to his cabin, the Air Force cabin, to give me coffee and tea and some biscuits. He said, oh, I so she scratched somebody's name out and put my name down. I boarded that aircraft. I was in Delhi by that evening, caught the night train. I was in Dehradun by next morning, right? And ended up at house. And my sister rang up Mrs. Priya Bali that this joker has landed up. So come and visit us. So she and Sroop and all these people landed up, and the mother of the girl at our house. I was still sleeping because, we're traveling all day and all night. And so I was upstairs in a bedroom, and they said, my father sent one of our driver up, Saab ko bulao niche. So he came there, so I just put on a dressing gown with my beard that big, it hadn't shaved for 2 days, hair all over the place. And I walked in, and these ladies were there. They said, hello, how do you do?
Oh, no.
Got introduced. I don't know if you believe in fate. I think there is something more to life than just the way we go. Why do things happen? I asked Datti Gara, how did you fly? You must have crossed East Pakistan. He said, yes. I was flying very high and I was going very fast. So I said, but they've got about 6 Sabre jets there, fighter aircraft. Yes, he said, they scrambled the 4 Sabre jets came up and they went for me, but I was flying high. And by the time they reached my devil in the sky, I had already crossed the boundary and landed up in Bengal. He just crossed East Pakistan like that. That's why we landed in time for me to catch that flight. He need not have done that. He didn't even know me, but he did it. We became good friends. He was senior to me. When he was an air marshal, he retired. By that time, I was the brigadier or major general. He told me, he said, I am going to Nepal. I'm going to be in charge of the golf course there. Anytime you come there, free golf in Kathmandu for you. I said, okay. He said, we've got an excellent 18-hole course there. You can play golf. That's the Tigara. He looked like a bulldog. Delightful man. He got a big reputation in the Air Force also. A no-nonsense type. So I was very grateful for bold Air Force officers who can break all rules for what they think they ought to do. And that's how I managed to meet my lady. And the story goes on because she was from IT college. She had to go back because she had her exams or something on. And I said, look, so my sister said, why don't you go for a picnic? So she had only one day. She was going next evening. So we went for a picnic. I said, can I write to you? She said, no, you'll have to ask my mother. So then we went and called on her aunt and her mother who were there in Dehradun. And I said, look, can I have permission to write to the young lady? She said, yes, of course you could. So with the result, I wooed her by letter for the next 2 years. That's it.